and gentlemen, welcome to the Creator Week. This is an extremely special week. We've managed to secure a constellation of individuals that's with a distinct and sincere voice of authority when it comes to their pedigree and their experience to now all recognize the creator economy. This is day 5, and you've listened to a number of other individuals speak about different dimensions of what the creator economy constitutes, and you've listened to Ankur extend some extremely positive questions about where this is all going. Crescendo day of what we're staring down the barrel of is Jim Louderback speaking to us about his experience, his role when it comes to his global perspective of the creator economy. And again, I'm sure that Ankur's got some really intrusive questions for Jim's intellectual horsepower when it comes to exactly where we are, and most importantly, we're going and what 2025 look like. Guys, welcome to our final day of the Creator Economy Week.
Great, thank you. I'm exhausted already.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that everybody's super familiar with you after all of the questions that you've extended, all of the fascinating dialogue that we've had with everybody else. But Jim, you're the final face to lots of people around the world on this stream who might know you before. And for those individuals, do you want to just give us 30 seconds of who you are, what you've done with your career and what you do now?
Yeah, I mean, I used to run magazines and then got involved in television about technology. Fell into running a YouTube work early on, sold it to Discovery, was there for a while, helped build and then ran, and then sold an event called VidCon to Paramount, stayed there for a few years. And now I write a newsletter about the creator economy on LinkedIn. It's free, sign up every week, lots of great insight. And I help build events around the world in the creator space. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
And congrats on reaching 30,000 subscribers, Jim, on the Inside the Creator Economy newsletter.
Yeah, thanks. 30,000 on the newsletter, 40,000 followers on LinkedIn. I am absolutely an accidental creator, but I'm loving doing it, so it's okay.
Jim, talk to me first of all before we get into the more granular level, and I know we're going to explore the kind of commercial dimensions of what this whole thing is about. But what's been your experience of how the creator economy has come about? You've just mentioned that you're at YouTube. I think a lot of people would see that as the spiritual home of what many people recognize as the creator economy and all of the things that has become. But what's your journey been with what this thing is, the creator economy?
Well, actually, to be clear, I was not a YouTube. I built a network, a multi-channel network of YouTubers, but we are separate from YouTube. I could talk about that for a long time. But basically, journey really, it started for me when I had my first job at a magazine, PC Week, computer magazine. And at a young age, I mean, I was in my 20s, they gave me a weekly column in this huge magazine. And I'm like, whoa, the gatekeepers gave me something. And then 2 years later, I went to one of the first World Wide Web conferences and realized that anybody in the world could have a blog. Anybody in the world could wake up and reach a global audience, whereas they didn't need the gatekeepers that were nice enough to give me my column. And I could have done two things. I could have been like, no, stop, this isn't going to happen. I'm going to fight against it because I got my piece. Or I could embrace it. So I decided just embrace it. And I love a world where anyone, anywhere in the world, no friends, no followers, no subscribers, can wake up in the morning, start a channel, start a blog, start a podcast, start a whatever, reach a global audience all by themselves.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a broadcaster here in the Middle East called Blinks. Have you heard of Blinks at all, Jim? Blinks is an organization that we've got here in the Middle East. And basically what they've done is expedite the direction in which I see a lot of broadcasting organizations going, where they're capitalizing on not only the creative element of content production, but actually they're recruiting the content creators from that side and putting them in what we would recognize as a tier 1 grade studio. So you can imagine for those guys, they're super excited that the opportunity to elevate their content and get into all this kind of VizRT type hardware and software and all of that kind of stuff. But actually the content that they're creating, Jim, if you haven't seen it already, check it out after this, because Blinks are doing stuff that I think is really, really groundbreaking. It kind of sets a benchmark here in this region, and I'd be fascinated to hear what your reaction to it is when you see it. But the reason that I mention them is because I think that sets the stage for the conversation, and to bring you in, Ankur, because they're a commercial entity. They're quite well backed as an organization. They're certainly pretty serious. I've been to their studio a couple of times, and it's not shoddy at all. It's a real professional outfit. But at which point did this become, Jim, and Ankur, jump in on this, At which point did this become potentially such a lucrative and massive movement when it comes to what it represents from a financial perspective?
Look, I first want to talk a little bit about what you were just saying with Blinks, because I fundamentally think that yes, better equipment, better studios can help. But fundamentally, the reason why this has become such a big deal is because it's not about the trappings of the studio or the audio or the camera. It's about the person and the connection that they connect right through that camera and reach out to others, not because they're pretty or because it's beautiful, but it's the heart. It's the connection. It's the community. And you can create amazing things on your mobile that are just as good as anything you might be able to create with the most expensive studios and VizRT and all that other stuff. Because what you're doing is you're connecting person to person, individual to individual. And to me, that's the power of the creator economy. It is, yes, you can entertain and you can inform and you can inspire, but it's about connections and about not just connecting one-on-one, but building a group of people that connect with you as a creator, but that also connect with each other around that shared love of the sorts of things you make, what you talk about, and the way you make them feel. So those are the things I think that are the fundamental elements of the creator economy that are different from traditional media. And they're one of the reasons why it's so popular and it's so big and generating so much revenue, because it's a new way for people to be on a camera, in a studio, on the streets, but reaching out through the internet to other people who can relate and want to be part of it. It's about belonging, then it's more than it's about, this is a great thing I saw, let's move on to the next thing.
Ankur?
Yeah, I completely agree. I said I completely agree with what Jim is saying, but I also feel like I've been following Blinks for a while now, and I think what they're doing is also fundamentally very different from what the other places or the other studios have been doing so far. So they are kind of, in some way or form, democratizing the access to better quality infrastructure, which might or might not be there for a lot of folks. So I think that's a great space that they are into. But I couldn't agree more with Jim. I think it's the originality and it's the rawness of the content creation itself that is the USP of what the creator economy is all about. I think that's where the thumbnail is. That's where it all starts.
Yeah, it's not like hanging out with a movie star. It's like hanging out with a friend, right?
Yeah.
And that friend could tell you like, hey, I really love this makeup, you should buy it. Or they could say, hey, come hang out in my community over here where there are people just like you. It's just a couple bucks a month and we can all really explore what it means to be human together.
That's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Ankur, you've spoken about this throughout the course of the week. You know, you've got your model that constitutes the different dimensions of what creates the creator economy. Let's just go back to that for a second and bounce it off Jim, because it'll be great to get Jim's take on this. We've given everybody else the opportunity to do that. Would you just take us back through those components that we've calibrated in all the conversations throughout the course of the week?
Yeah.
And got different perspectives off from the voices of authority space.
Yeah, I think that. Thank you very much for that, Chris. I think the thing is that the way when I look at the creator economy, I feel that a lot of folks are talking about it. Very few actually get it. And when I say get it, it's not rocket science. It's pretty simple actually. And the whole the chapter that I'm trying to kind of understand more or make more understandable to everybody is that it is a simple process of what the creator economy is. It's not as complicated as it looks, as it sounds. And in the book that I've been writing about on the creator economy, I break it down into 5 key frameworks, or I call them the 5C framework. One side is the creator, then you have the collaborator or the brands, then you have the channels or the platforms, then you have the consumer, and finally you have the commerce piece. And commerce meaning anything other than ad buys or anything other than ad revenues for a creator. So it could be, newsletters, podcasts, building a business around your brand of content creation. And that is what I really wanted to dig a little bit deeper with you, Jim, during this session today. There have been statistics around saying that, there's been about 4% of the creators today globally make more than $100,000 annual revenues. 96% of the world of creators today is not making enough money. wanted to pick your thoughts on that, and from your experience of working with the creator economy, for so many years now, and especially with creators, where do you think, or what do you think are, the areas that we all know what the big creators are up to, and we all know that they're building a brand around their own business and all. How do you, and what is your guidance to, let's say, the smaller set of creators, the mid tier of the creators, or even the emerging and the aspiring set of creators? How do they build commerce around their own selves? I mean, that's something that I'm really keen to hear from you today.
By the way, when you started out, I had to laugh because you talked about the creator economy. Everyone talks about it, but nobody's doing it. It's kind of like sex, right? Everybody talks about it, but how many people are really doing it? I think when you think about commerce for creators, it's easy to pop up and, maybe you get a little AdSense, maybe you get some other revenue, but you're not going to make a lot from the platforms. And the thing about the platforms is it's rented land, whether you're on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or whatever. You don't own your audience. You don't own your connection with your community that you've built, and whether it's 1,000 or 10,000 or 1 million. And so the most interesting things that I see is that when you find your super fans, when you find the people that really like what you're doing, that really want to be part of your community, identify them, figure out how to connect with them. And then once you can do that, figure out the sorts of things you can develop that they might want to pay for. Because you know what? If they really like your content, they might want to give you a couple bucks a month just because you create content that makes them think that you're doing something special. It's kind of what Patreon and other people are doing. If maybe you want to have a community where you bring everyone together, and you can do that in a private community that could be paid. Maybe you want to develop a product or service. Maybe you're a utility creator and you're helping people figure out how to be a better plumber and fix that blocked toilet. You might be able to start selling products to help people clean their toilets and make money that way through affiliate deals. So there are so many different ways that as a creator, as you've built a direct connection to an audience, that you can start to think about monetizing it. It's just what's right for you, what's right for your content, and what's right for your community. And how do you find the people that are most likely to want to buy or be part of those paid experiences?
Ankur, I want to just, if you don't mind me jumping in, Jim's
Please.
just said something that really landed hard with me in contrast to the other conversations that we've had this week, which is the rented land concept that you just brought to the dialogue, Jim. I'm looking at the model here, Ankur, and C2, the channels or platforms, as we call them. You're absolutely right, Jim. Ultimately, they are the platforms that everyone's using as the bridgehead to these audiences that they've fostered and that love them and all that sort of stuff. But actually, as soon as you said that, I thought, wow, these channels actually create a disproportionate amount of gravity when it comes to this solar system of collaborators, commerce, consumers, creators. Is that the most powerful element within that constellation, in your opinion, Jim, when it comes to the commercial side of things? Are they the ones making the real money?
You know what? You can make real money with 10,000 followers. You can actually, there's an event that I'm helping to build called the Billion Follower Summit in Dubai. We actually have a session on that, on how you can make money with only 10,000 followers. So you have to come see that. But it's in Dubai. But I think the fallacy is that only the biggest creators can make money, because there are a bunch of different ways that you can, let's say you're a creator with 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 followers, but you've gotten good at making videos. You can do what's called a UGC creator, where you can make videos for brands that they end up using on their socials, not even yours. Let's say you've built a connection with 10,000 people that really love the what you talk about, and maybe you talk about the best phones or the best computer products or the best this or the best that. You can do affiliate links where if people buy the things you like, you can make money every time. So there are ways to build significant revenue without having to be in the millions and millions and millions and millions of followers. So just keep that in mind, that we're seeing creators of all types of communities and sizes and content really connecting with audiences and being able to monetize at a level that, now is it going to get you to $1 million a year? Maybe not. Is it going to get to you 100,000? It can do it.
Yeah.
Ankur, I jumped in on your conversation, and it just fascinated me what Jim had said about the channels element of it as well. But I guess what you're talking about there, Jim, is the collaborator element, Ankur, within your model. The kind of marketing that you're speaking about there, Jim, and whether it's a couple of bucks or whether it's 10,000 for whatever people associate the value to what you're selling as, it's not really about the size of the following. It's about the value that people associate to whatever it is that you're able to bring to them, right?
Yeah, I think. Sorry, Jim, you're saying something, but
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
no. So I was trying to say, Chris, is that the commerce piece is really all about exactly what Jim just spoke about. He elaborated on different ways that folks can create, can make money over and above just the collaborated deals or the brand deals and all. So it could be affiliates, it could be, offline kind of communities. It could be anything that, folks getting together can do. I think that's a very interesting thought line for me, because I always feel like a lot, not me, but a lot of folks always feel that when you have a lot of followers, when you have millions of followers in your kitty, is only when that actually you can, start to build a reasonable size of a revenue of the platform. But I think what Jim is alluding to right now is really making a lot of sense, because even though you might have lesser number of followers, but if they are like loyal followers, if they are like your true followers, if they're the people who you can who can really relate with you and your content and yourself as a person, I think there's a lot more to kind of uncover, and not just wait for the numbers of followers to kind of drive up the score.
You know what's interesting, Ankur, and you make a really good point, is that we tend to obsess so much on follower count, subscriber count, hearts, and things like that, where, there's really a multiple that we really need to start thinking about, which is not your CPM or any of those. It's revenue per follower. What is your revenue per follower?
Yeah.
And optimize for that. If you have 10,000 followers, but you can optimize and get a significant amount of revenue from each one of them, way more valuable. And what we see interestingly emerging around the world is that there's almost a curve, like an inverse bell curve happening with creators, where if you look at on the horizontal axis the number of subscribers, and you look at sort of revenue per subscriber, really small creators are actually making a significant more amount per subscriber than those in the middle. Now, if you're, the Mr. Beast or the Mark Rober or whatever, the BB Kai and all those folks, you're going to probably be doing really well. You're up on this curve. But the middle, I won't say it's hollowing out, but it's actually somewhat less of a good place to be from a revenue per follower perspective. So think about that as a metric.
Yeah, that's
a great point. Yeah,
Jim, I've got a question for you. When, my main business is in the human capital recruitment space, and I see a lot of people that weave together this really smart kind of construct of different platforms. So, for example, LinkedIn will be their main platform. There's some pretty interesting stuff going on there. There'll be a complementary YouTube channel with more extended content. Both of those seem designed to pull people through to a platform like school, where they can deliver the value of whatever they're trying to teach people, and that's where they monetize it. Is the ecosystem that creators generate around themselves essential to get that kind of traction when it comes to monetizing content, or is it through affiliate codes and that sort of stuff? What are the trends that you see in the more successful kind of creator models?
Well, I think, first of all, I want to talk about platforms and the way that people use them, because you brought that up. You talked about YouTube and LinkedIn. I think you need to find your platform that is best suited for your content, and definitely play around with different ones, but you're going to end up with a hero platform. For a lot of people in business, that's LinkedIn. For some people, it's short form on TikTok or Instagram. For other people, it's YouTube. And then think about the best ways to connect with your audience there. Now, I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and I find that there's no advertising on LinkedIn. There's no rev share on LinkedIn, but I've managed to build a significant amount of revenue on a smaller number of followers, because it's a place where I can share my expertise as a business person, as an industry person. So that's a good place for that. And there's a lot less people on LinkedIn making content than there are on some of those other platforms. So it's a bit of a greenfield when it comes to that too. But you also have to think about the type of creator you are. Are you somebody who gives information? Are you sharing inspirational stories? Are you entertaining? Because the things that you can do and the types of ways to leverage and monetize your audience are different for those different types of creators. So if you think about it, if you're an inspirational creator, You might be able to do a course, you might be able to do a book or things like that. If you're an entertainment creator, there are different things open to you. That's where you might think about going on tour, or you might think about, how do I do things that lean into that? So different types of creators have different ways open to them to monetize. And if you're an informational creator where you're giving information about how to clean your toilet, how to fix your computer, how to wash your windows, how to grow things in the garden, you have other opportunities available to you from a monetization perspective.
Jim, do you think there's a particular type of character, like a psychometric type, build, that lends itself well to being a more successful creator? Is it, everyone would say, you're an extrovert, you're an extrovert, so you're a creator. Is that true? Is that what you see across all of the spectrum of different analysis you've done?
I don't think so. And I have talked and interacted with a lot of creators, and they come of all shapes, sizes, stripes, mental makeup. There are a lot of introverts who are creators, believe me. And I'm not going to name any names, but they're ones that when they get in front of the camera, because they're not dealing with other people, they do really well. But you put them out in the audience, you put them at a meet and greet, you put them on stage at VidCon or other places, and they're like shaking in their boots. So don't worry. You don't have to be the class clown or the belle of the ball or the center of attention to be a great creator. What you have to be is motivated, and you have to do it and find your thing. Find what type of content you like. Find what works for you. And it's good to look at other people and see what they're doing and borrow some of the things that they're doing, but don't try and be that other creator. I think the creators that are really good are the ones who kind of are themselves and figure out how to do that and connect through the media that they use to create.
And if I may just add over here, I feel like, especially on YouTube, I've seen so many times, I've worked with so many of those creators who, to your point, they aren't very kind of friendly in terms of like getting themselves on the camera and all. And there is this whole new breed of the faceless creators that's coming up. There are the hand creators. They are the creators where you don't see the face and all. So the platform is pretty, I said the social media itself, or the platforms in social media, are very open to kind of all kind of experimentations. Audiences are open to experimentation. They are open to kind of receiving all sorts of content from all sorts of different kind of, storytelling ways and all. And I think there's a space for everybody in here. It doesn't need to be an introvert or an extrovert particularly to be able to make good content. I guess it's across the board for everyone.
Well, and I want to lean into that a little bit more, because you're absolutely right, Ankur. And one of the things that, look at as well. Okay, so Kai Cenat, I was going to talk about Iron Mouse, the VTuber, but Iron Mouse, had a subathon, became the top sub. Now Kai Cenat's in his 30-day. I'm going to beat her out and be my thing. But the thing about VTubers is you don't even have to put your face on camera. You can have a 3D representation of it. And, I'm just going to grab. What do I got over here? Oh, let's take this one. So you could have something like this, and rather than you speaking, it could be, this is me speaking, and it's a 3D representation. And, you can actually represent yourself that way and do it. So you don't want to be on camera, it's okay too. I actually just finished working on a video that we'll be publishing at some point, but it's all about anime. And like the Vatican, the church, the Catholic Church just released their own anime characters. Anime is eating the world. Doesn't mean you need to lean into anime, but there are so many different things and fandoms. We could talk about fandoms forever too. Find your fandom, find the things that you're passionate about, and take it from there.
Jim, I'm conscious that it was 8 a.m. when we started your time. I'm on the other side of the planet in the Middle East, and I know you've got a lot of stuff on today. We should probably begin to wrap this up a bit, but Jim, what do you think next year is going to look like? We're in Q4 2024 now. 2025 feels like it's going to be a year where this orchard blossoms when it comes to, further progress for the creator economy. What should we anticipate when it comes to what we should watch out for next year?
Well, one thing is, if you work in a company and you're not a full-time creator, you probably do. Next time you're in that company meeting, look around the room. Let's say there's 20 people, 100 people. 1 out of every 10, 1 out of every 12 of those people on that Zoom call, in that face-to-face meeting, working with you in that store, they're creators. You don't know who they are. You don't know what they're creating, but they're creators. One of the things that is going to be a huge trend next year is companies are going to start to realize that the creators that are working at their company are an untapped force that they need to lean into. And that might mean that you could be a creator working at a company. And if it's a smart company, you might make more money just by being a creator and that person. So look at that, lean into that. I mean, there's obviously the AI, the language, you can go global because you can be translated. There are a number of other trends there, but I think the fact that the creators among us, and that in the end, it's 1 out of 10 now, probably be 1 out of 8 going forward. Who knows? Those are things you want to keep an eye on. And the last thing is, we're about to enter the transition from Gen Z to Gen Alpha. What does that mean? I don't know. Probably more Skibidi toilet. But what does that look like? And how do we prepare for that? Because the story of the next 5 years will be Gen Alpha taking over the trends and setting the trends, and Gen Z being the old folks in the background going like, who are those people?
That's true. And by the way, I was to that point today itself at lunch today when I was having lunch with my son, and I'm looking at him and telling him that, you know what, I feel like in a few years you'll be the one who'll be running the show. Like you guys will, your generation will be making the decisions for everything. I mean, that's crazy and scary at the same time. So yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Jim, it's been amazing to meet you this week and speak to you today. Thank you so much for lending some of your precious time to the week that Ankur and myself have tried to create. And I'm 100% sure that there will have been people listening to you today that will have had light bulbs lit by the things that you've said. So I really appreciate the time, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Jim. And Ankur, thanks for bringing the probing questions again.
No, thank you. And thank you very much for making the time, Jim. Frankly, it was absolutely brilliant having you.
No problem.
I look forward to seeing you soon in Dubai.
Yeah, no problem. It's been a great week. I'm glad to cap it off for you guys. Congrats on pulling the whole week together. And yeah, Dubai in January is going to be great. I hear the weather's nice. Last time I was there was in August. Right. Very hot.
Yeah. August is different.
Yeah, August, things melt. Anyway, I will see y'all there. And don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter. Subscribe and follow on LinkedIn Inside the Creator Economy.
Thanks, guys.
See y'all. Thank you.